Yes, Wednesday is the third official work day of the week. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions on Flow 94.9 FM. This is the Flow of God's own state. It is still part of our morning show, the one we call Morning Spice, the discussion segment of the morning show right here on the Flow of God's own state. My name is Michael Oni. Welcome to another wonderful radio experience, talk radio experience right here, where we have elevated conversations in a very easy but intellectually stimulating manner. Of course, this morning we're talking about the Petroleum Industry Act that was signed into law by President. The ceremonial signing, of course, of that bill will take place today in Abuja, and that will form our conversation this morning. We will be talking to someone from the presidency, of course, the implication of that petroleum industry bill and implications for the host communities. I have joining me this morning the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, Mr. Ajuri Ngalale. Glad to have you join us. Welcome to the platform on Flow FM, Mr. Ajuri.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, and good morning to our great listeners.
Good morning to you. Thank you, and we're glad to have you. I understand that the ceremonial signing of that bill is today, and you're ready. Maybe you should just paint a picture of what is happening at the Villa right now ahead of that signing before we jump into the conversation just quickly.
Well, I think I think what's critical now is for our people, because there's very limited time to talk.
Okay.
I'll just go into the content of the bill and why it's important for our people to understand what has been achieved. The first thing is that with the Petroleum Industry Act now that has been signed into effect, you're going to now have a transition, a 6-month transition. The timeline is mandated in the Act that the NNPC, as the large government bureaucracy it has been, will now be adapted to really what will be a commercial enterprise that it will run under KAMA. So to be the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and all of that. So that's very critical, because we've adopted the organizational structure of some of the most successful oil companies in the world, such as Saudi Aramco and others. So you have that on the one hand. On the other hand, you also have, secondly, the issue of accountability, really enthroning that by legal mandates now. So now this act mandates that every year there will be a forensic audit, financial audit of all of the major players in the oil and gas industry. Their books must be open to the public for public scrutiny, and that also includes the regulators. The government the regulatory agencies that are now tasked with overseeing the sector, the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission, as well as which has just been created, as well as the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency. They are now mandated as well to have their books independently audited by an independent auditor for public scrutiny. All of those reports will be made public to Nigerians annually. So that's very, very important and revolutionary for the sector. Then thirdly, we have put in place a new set of tax reforms, which in effect are now going to provide for heavy financial sanctions on any oil company, local or international, who attempt to default on their taxes, avoid paying their taxes, underreport, erroneous accounting practices internally, dealing with issues of non-payment or underpayment of royalties and other monies owed to the Federation, that these things will now attract very severe financial sanctions. So that is very, very important for the first time. And then, of course, you also have, and this one is very important, the issue of host communities. You've had in the country a national conversation now around whether we have gone far enough with host communities. What you have is the establishment within 12 months with a timeline in the Act, meaning that if we do not meet up with the timeline, that you have broken the law, which we will not do. So the President intentionally put the timeline there that within 12 months, the Host Communities Development Trust, HCDT, Host Communities Development Trust, must be established within 12 months and fully operating within 12 months. How it's going to work is that 3% of the total actual operating expenditure in the sector, which last year was $16 billion. 3% of $16 billion will be allocated annually to the trust, the Host Communities Development Trust. Now, it's important to understand that last year, because of COVID-19, we were in the throes of the pandemic last year. You had very depressed oil prices. You had production shutdowns around the world. You still have the OPEC curbs on production. We're producing 1.4 million barrels per day when we have capacity to produce 2 million because of the OPEC limitations, which will expire next year. So what my point is, the operating expenditure of $16 billion last year is going to go up, will rise to over $20 billion in future years. So you have 3% of that, which comes out to about over $500 million. So what we are saying is that 3% you keep hearing about is actually more. The trust will receive more in 1 year than what the Nddc receives in 1 year. That is the extent of the investment. So it's a very large amount of money.
Okay, beyond the fact that Nigerians can now jubilate, for one thing, the fact that the country now has a legal framework to hold the state-owned oil company and other regulators accountable. The issue of this law coming at a time that many persons, including international oil companies, are looking for alternatives to fossil fuel should be a very big question. And they're saying that this law is made for yesterday. We should be looking at diversifying and looking beyond oil, and we're making laws to even strengthen the oil and gas sector. What is your reaction to this?
Yeah, I think it would be a very wrong notion to have, to say that you should abandon oil and gas so that you focus on agriculture. That is not how governance works anywhere in the world. You use the resources from oil and gas exploration and production to be able to sponsor, to finance the process of diversification, which is what this administration is doing. You use the proceeds from oil and gas. Most nations, the people who do not produce oil and gas, wish they produced oil and gas, because what it does is it gives you a financing kind of mode to fund the diversification process into agriculture, into solid minerals, into manufacturing, into infrastructural expansion, roads, bridges, airports, seaports, power plants, dams, railways, all the things that everybody has been watching President Muhammadu Buhari build over the last 5-6 years, and is continuing to build. It comes from oil money. So you use the oil money to diversify your economy into these other sectors, which is what we are actively doing right now. That's how we went from being the largest importer of rice in Africa in 2015. Now we are the largest producer of rice in Africa. It's because of those investments. So the point is that we will continue to deepen the efficiency of the oil sector, ensuring we get maximum benefit, monetize all the oil in our ground, so that we can fund that process of diversification. And I just want to also mention very quickly, a lot of controversy has been raised over this idea that 30% is being allocated to frontier. Frontier basin exploration, and 3% to host communities. Let me inform our viewers of the truth on this matter. If you look across any company worth its onions, will be investing in the future. What it means is that if you're an ICT, for example, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, all these companies, they invest much more than 30% of their revenues in research and development and innovation. Why do they do that? They do it because they recognize that they have to stay one step ahead of the next wave of technology. They have to be sure that they're going to be viable tomorrow. That is why they spend so much on research and development. In the oil sector, the equivalent of research and development in the tech sector, in the oil sector, is funding exploration activities, making sure that when the oil deposits in the areas where you're currently producing eventually exhaust, which they will definitely exhaust because they're finite, you have more points of production that you have created through your exploration activities, and that has to be funded. So you are investing 30% in your future. So those people who are saying, 30%, they are putting money in the north, they are taking it away from Nigeria Delta to put in the north. It is so ignorant. The way it works is that you have frontier basins all over the country, not just in the north, where anywhere we have proven oil reserves, we are going to go and dig that oil out so that we can extract it, monetize it, and have more money to share across all local governments. I want to remind our listeners that every drop of oil that you extract from the Niger Delta, for example, is shared across all the local government areas of the Federation. And any drop of oil we extract from northern Nigeria, western Nigeria, eastern Nigeria, even there in Abia, it will also be shared across all local government areas of the Federation. So it is good for Nigeria to become wealthier with more oil exploration, even as we transition to cleaner energies into the future.
All right, Mr. Ajuri Ngalale, I'm afraid we have to let you go because of your busy schedule. Hopefully, we will have you some other time to also expatiate, especially on this act, so that we can talk much more on what Nigerians should know, especially Abians should know on the new Petroleum Act. We do appreciate your time on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, my brother. God bless you.
You're welcome.